Hey, welcome on in to the UD Football Show. We'll bring in head football coach Stan Zwiefel for a conversation about last Saturday's contest and then preview the Battle of the Bridge against Wisconsin-Platteville coming up this Saturday. And that game is scheduled, as far as we know at this time, to be played at Platteville. Of course, well chronicled, the stadium suffered a very heavy damage in June, middle of June, with EF2 tornadoes that tore through Platteville. Fortunately, there was no loss of life in Platteville. There were a few injuries, but there was a lot of damage done. The football stadium was heavily damaged, and they've been scrambling to try to open up the season at home. And from all accounts, they are very close to having that facility ready to play that home opener. And so we'll just wait and see what the rest of the week brings. But the Spartans and the Pioneers will play this Saturday somewhere. And we'll talk with head coach Stan Zwiefel about that contest here in just a moment. Also joining us a little bit later in the program will be Mike Durnan, assistant head coach, defensive line coach for the Spartans. He's going to be our assistant spotlight guest here on the UD Football Show with head football coach Stan Zwiefel. We're coming to you from the Chalmers Field. It is raining right now at Chalmers Field, expecting some heavy rain in Dubuque tonight and tomorrow, and it looks like some pretty cool weather rolling in here for the weekend, talking about temperatures in the upper 50s maybe for kickoff coming up on Saturday over at Platteville as the Spartans will take on the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. We're going to come back and we're going to hear from the head coach himself. Stan Zwiefel will visit with Stan in just a moment. This is the UD Football Show. We'll be back right after this on 101.1 The River. 6:33 on this Tuesday evening here on 101.1 The River. This is the UD Football Show with head football coach Stan Zwiefel. And Coach Zwiefel joining us right now. And Coach, thanks for coming on the program here tonight. Tough loss on Saturday in the opener against the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. Definitely not the way you wanted to get out of the gates. And it certainly, you were playing from behind early. You don't like to do that, but a tough situation for your team.
It really was. And, to say that I was very disappointed for our men. I thought we were well prepared, as we had talked about, Tim. And right off the bat, we throw an interception our first possession. Then we fumble a kickoff. Then we fumble a running play, and we give them 4 turnovers with a 15-yard punt involved in that thing too. So they get really good field position. Our defense really plays extremely hard, and we're still in the ball game, but we put ourselves in such a hole and shot ourselves in the foot so many times, Tim, we weren't able to overcome that. And surprised and disappointed is probably the 2 best words for me about our offense. But, I said this to our kids afterwards, one game doesn't make a season. And surely success isn't final and failure isn't fatal. So we've got a chance to go, and we've really made some adversity for ourselves. And to tell you the truth, on Sunday, I think we were still having a little bit of not feeling very good about what happened. We had a very spirited practice today. Tuesdays are usually a day when you're putting some things in, getting for your next opponent. But I thought our men's energy level was really good, and I thought our attitude was really good. Now, hey, that's a game we wish we'd have back, but they aren't going to let me play that one again, Tim, and that's okay. We have to learn from that and move on. We're still a very, very good football team. You have to find confidence, and you have to do things that allow you to have confidence, and on last Saturday we just didn't have a lot of those things happen for us offensively. But I took away from that game, Tim, as we talked a little bit before we started the show, our defense, phenomenal effort in the first quarter, especially 3 possessions with inside our 35 lacrosse has, and they only score once out of those 3 possessions. So there were some things there that I thought we can build on. We sure got to take care of the turnover situation if we're going to be a good football team.
Taking care of the football is, I guess, number one on the priority list. Yeah. But as you reviewed those turnovers, how many of those were just fumbling the ball? How many were good defensive hits by lacrosse, or was there a combination?
I think they're a combination. One of the fumbled return on the kickoff was a great effort by Oscar White and a kid coming from the backside, and the ball a little bit exposed from his body. But we had not fumbled or turned the ball over in our scrimmage or any of those things. It wasn't really a major concern of us going to that game. We had thought we'd taken care of the ball very well in our practices and our scrimmage. But Like in that thing, hey, it seemed to me that when the snowball started rolling downhill, we had a difficult time of stopping it and pushing it back. And the analogy for me there is our guys lost some confidence. We're a dang good football team, and offensively, we might be one of the better teams I've had. Getting shut out in the first half is the first time I think I've been shut out in the first half. We were talking about this in 53 games. It just doesn't happen very often to us. And so we just, again, I say to you, Tim, those are correctable mistakes, but you got to correct them. And we had a chance in that game to pull back within. That's what really bothered me the most. We were down 14-0, and we threw a pick at the 7-yard line, and it was a misread. We had the coverage we expected. We had the route up that we expected, and our quarterback unexplainably threw it to a different guy than the route calls for. And he was at loss of words for telling me why that happened. And that, it's the first time Zach's played in 4 years now. So there were some things that happened that I didn't think would happen, whether it's inexperience or whether it was nerves. But we didn't start out well, and we didn't allow ourselves to have any momentum.
You did have some nice sparks, some good drives that unfortunately a couple of them ended with turnovers. But you could see this team was growing, getting more confidence, and your freshman running backs really grew as the game wore on and played
very physical
well.
Players, very good. They ran very well. Charles unfortunately had the fumble on his very first carry as a collegiate, and that that he was able to overcome that in the second half. But again, I tell our guys, one game doesn't decide a season, one play doesn't. What I thought hurt us Saturday, Tim, was the bad start affected us the whole game. We had a 13-play drive that ended with an interception, unheard of, unbelievable. And we had an 11-play drive that we didn't score on either. So those two things, you got to put the ball in the end zone. But again, Tim, that game can come down to one thing. You can't give the ball to the opposition 6 times and expect to win the football game. That would take a miracle.
As you said, it was amazing that your team was down just 17-0 at halftime, going into the locker room, given all the adversity you'd gone through, and then La Crosse came out and scored the first possession of the second half. So you're down 24-0, but your team responded there in the third quarter. Yeah. Very nice touchdown drive. And you're right back in the thing. Yeah,
we thought we really were. The problem, again, Tim, is our defense had been gassed by then. They had played an extraordinary amount of plays in that third quarter and started the fourth, and they just wore down, and we were not able to do things enough to help them. I don't know. I think we had 24 first downs, and if you talk to a coach, 24 to 29 first downs is probably what you're looking for, but we weren't able to finish those 24 first downs with something, either a kick for a field goal or a touchdown with an extra point. We just were not able to finish it that way.
A big play that could have been Blaine Snitker with an interception when La Crosse was driving again, took it for what appeared to be a touchdown. A flag did come out, and the call was hit on an indefensible player.
Right.
Explain that. Some of the fans might not have understood what happened there, and you did review it. And
2 years ago, Tim, and really it's been 3 now since the NCAA Rules Committee has looked at the amount of concussions and the initial contact with the helmet to another player, to a helmet-to-helmet contact. That was expanded 2 years ago for a receiver that's in a defenseless position catching a ball, or a quarterback in a defenseless position not being able to have helmet initiate contact. Then the rules expanded this year, so when there's an interception or there's a run down the field and people are behind the play, you can no longer strike and hit a player that's in a defenseless position. Our guy didn't hit him very hard, but he blocked 35 yards behind the interception, and I thought it was a correct call by the officials. In fact, I thought the officials did a very good job on Saturday night, their first game too, like everybody else. And unfortunately, we have coached that, Tim, but I think the young man thought, hey, there's a guy that I could block and I'm going to make it. And, hey, it is a learning lesson for us in that part. What was interesting about it, we were just hanging on by our cuticle at that time. And I thought, oh, my gosh, we're going to have a chance to close this to one possession and really finally put some pressure on their offense to have to play and get a first down. But unfortunately, it got called back, and Blaine's a heck of a player, and he took that thing about 90-plus yards, and he'll have a couple more of those, but that's a linebacker's dream or any defensive player's dream to take an interception back for a touchdown.
Well, we're talking about Blaine Snitker. Talk about your linebacker play. We thought they played outstanding.
Outstanding. I actually thought the back half of our defense, as I had mentioned to you earlier last week, I think it's maybe the best that we've had here, and we'll continue to do that. And even though We didn't give up many points. If you look at their passing statistics, they were not very accurate, and we did a good job of harassing their receivers. The kid that caught the 2 touchdown passes, Tony Bilderbach, played basketball with both my sons. I used to coach him on being a receiver when he was about 10 or 11 years old.
You coached him too well, Coach.
And I talked to him before the game, and I'll be danged if he doesn't score 2 touchdowns. But he's a kid that's went through a lot of adversity up there at UW-Cross, and it was nice to see him have a good game. I wish he'd had it in the next game, not this one. But, again, I think like anything else, I'm able to look at this, and as I told you, Tim, before we started, it's the worst offensive performance our football team has had since I've been here. And that encompasses a lot of games. And I told our staff it's disappointing because we're better than that. So we just got to get it hitched back up and snap up them chin straps and go play and go from there.
Well, a lot of the miscues are correctable errors,
yes.
And you know that's the thing. In week 1 to week 2, you're focused on trying to hone those things up and just improve as a team.
And Tim, I really do think this is true for all football teams. Your improvement from week 1 to week 2 is probably the greatest improvement you'll have during the season. No matter what you do in a scrimmage, no matter how you prepare, it isn't a game. And then one of the things we've talked about this, we actively try to put ourselves in positions like happened on Saturday night. But when it really happens, boy, it's hard to dictate or really predict how your kids are going to react mentally. I thought our defense responded to the challenge tremendously. I thought the skill part of our game, kickoff return, those kind of things, we didn't respond as well as we should have. Thus, that snowball kept on rolling down against us.
I guess I've never asked Coach this before. I've heard it a lot. The teams improve the most from week 1 to week 2. In your opinion, why is that? Why is it the most improvement through the season?
I think the biggest thing you always try to challenge your kids to is the practice at game tempo. Now, you don't ever get a chance to play a game during those first 25 practices. Our scrimmage was controlled. The quarterback wasn't live. So you put some factors in the game that you don't have. But when you play that first game, oh, my gosh, the speed is so great. And we have the freshman running back fumbled his first time. Oscar White fumbled the kickoff return. That's the first time he's returned a kickoff. We had a couple new guys in those positions that haven't been to that kind of game speed, and it happened. You try to prepare them, but you can never convince a player during practice it's a game. You just can't. You try like heck, but it just isn't the same.
Well, Coach, I'll let you officially crumple this stat sheet up and throw it away. We're done with that. You can throw that away.
That is a good plan, Tim.
And we're going to take a break, and we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Wisconsin-Platteville, the Spartans' next opponent. So we'll come back with more of the UD Football Show with Stan Zwiefel back after this on 101.1 The River. Looks like it's going to be a cool forecast when the Spartans take on the Pioneers in the Battle of the Bridge. And the Spartans will head across the Wisconsin Bridge. At least that's what we think. And they'll be going over to play a very good football team, an 8th-ranked Wisconsin-Platteville team that won 63-3 over Buena Vista, whom everybody thought was going to be a pretty improved football team. So I'm sure you looked at that score and just went, wow.
We've got a chance to watch the tape, and I said this to you earlier, Tim, as we talked the time. I said this is going to be the best football team we'll play during the regular season. It could be the best football team if you were lucky enough to get in the playoffs that we could play. They are very veteran on both sides of the ball. They have done very well the last 2 years. They're playing with tremendous amount of confidence. Tim, when I watched them on tape, their defense is flying to the ball. They've got a really good scheme on offense, which stresses you on the perimeter, stresses you inside with their run game. Coach Emmendorfer's done a tremendous job over there the last 2 or 3 years. They've been as good as anybody in the country, and the only team that's really beat them has been North Central and Whitewater, the 2 teams that have beat them. So they're going to be a very formidable opponent for us. We're going to have to play our best game to be able to play with those guys, and that's good. I think that's kind of really kind of what the challenge we need to do about how we played last Saturday. They've got a quarterback that's accurate. They've got a defense that, oh, my gosh, do they fly around the field, as I mentioned, and their special teams are awful good too. So it'll be a really big challenge. They've beaten us, I think, 4 years, I guess, 4 years, the 4 of the 5 years that I've been here, and they've just really had our number. We respect that program. We're really excited about getting a chance and opportunity to improve from last Saturday. And as I said, Tim, if we don't improve, it will be a very long game. what they did to BV was so impressive because they did it early, and they played. We had been playing almost 62 players in that game, so they played everybody on that who made that trip, and they all played very well, and they're just a very good football team.
When you played Wisconsin-Platteville, over the years, you could always expect the ball was going to go up a lot. It seemed like over the years, but they've become a more balanced offense. I was looking at their stats from the BV game, a lot of rushing numbers and throwing, so they're multifaceted.
I think, Tim, Coach Emmendorfer has been there close to 14 or 15 years, and I've played against him a number of those years from the start to the finish. I think what has made a big difference in their football program, as I see it, is number one, they're physical as a WIAC school is. And that's one of the hallmarks, I think, of the WIAC is the big physicality, and they've been able to do that. Second thing is they have become more balanced. They do have a running attack. They do have a very high percentage throw game, and the really interesting thing is they've been able to run the ball more. Their defense has become, conversely, better against the rush and become more physical. I think those two things work hand in hand. And so as a result, I think they are really an outstanding football team. And like I said, it's going to be a great challenge for us to go play them. I have utmost respect for their staff, and they've really put together a good football team, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a big challenge for our men. I've told them, Tim, you know me very well. I tell them exactly what I think it is. I told these guys it's the best football team we're going to play this year. And in reality, if we don't play better than we did Saturday or don't play more up to our capabilities, it's going to be a long afternoon. And so we have to go out there with that mindset. We've got to play that much tougher because they are a very good football team.
Mm-hmm. You've had just a couple of days of practice since you started working on Platteville here, and does it seem like the team's responded, that they're over over last Saturday?
Tim, we've only had one because Sundays
okay.
we have a Sunday we have a workout with our strength coach and do some running and some lifting and stretching. Then we watch game tape, and Monday is their day off by the NCAA, so the day is our first practice. What they really present is a different scheme than anybody else is running offensively, so getting that in takes some time. But I will say it to you, as I told the guys, I said, we were spirited for a Tuesday practice. I think whatever those after effects of the UW lacrosse game is gone, or at least we hope it's gone. But, Tim, we won't know that really until Saturday when we get a chance to tee it up over there. I'm excited because it really is a challenge because that's going to be a team that if we want to stay with them, we got to play our very best. And so you always hope that your kids respond when they're playing a very formidable opponent, that they give it their best shot.
Coach Zwiefel, we'll look forward to the football game. It'll be a 1 o'clock kickoff, 12:40 pregame here on 101.1 The River. Anything else you want to add about the contest?
It's been that Battle of the Bridge thing has been well done by both schools. I think it'll bring a really good crowd. And as you mentioned earlier, Tim, we're really not quite sure, are we going to play that game at Platteville or aren't we? They had the tornado rip up their field, as you mentioned earlier, and we're going to find out this Thursday morning. So I would alert all the fans to make sure they're looking at media outlets and listening to radio and getting on websites, because I'm not sure anybody today knows exactly where we're going to play that game. And I don't know if the weather's in effect good or bad or indifferent on that part. So we're just planning on going to Platteville, and if they can't hold a contest, then it'll be over here at our place. And again, the field's 53 1/3 yards wide and 120 yards long. It won't make a difference where we're playing.
Well, Coach, we'll let you go here, but Mike Durnan's going to come over here for a moment, and he's been a great addition to your staff.
Fantastic.
Second season with the Spartans here.
Fantastic. He's a fantastic coach. We've coached together for many, many years, and since he's been here, he's helped me in such of the administrative roles, the part that I'm really not excited about in coaching football. And but Mike's done a fantastic job with our special teams, and he'll talk about our defensive line and our special team play.
Well, that sounds great. Coach Zwiefel, thanks a lot for joining us. Best of luck as you get ready for Platteville, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks, Tim, for everything.
All right, that's University of Dubuque head football coach Stan Zwiefel joining us. The Spartans going to play the Pioneers on Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff, 12:40 pregame here on 101.1 The River. And when we come back on the UD Football Show with Stan Zwiefel, we'll talk with Mike Durnan, assistant coach, and we'll come back after this on 101.1 The River. And this is the UD Football Show with head football coach Stan Zwiefel, and we always have a segment where we talk to an assistant coach, and Mike Durnan, assistant head coach. and in charge of the defensive line, special teams, joining us right now. And, Coach, thanks for coming on the show here tonight to talk a little bit.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, it was a tough Saturday against Wisconsin lacrosse. Have you experienced anything like that in your coaching days, just getting off to the start like that?
Oh, I think we all have had certain games that kind of replicate each other, and it was tough. You're kind of searching for an answer during the game, like, how can we get this turned around? And it's always a segment of coaching that you hate going through. You know it's going to happen. You hate going through it. And the most important part from that is you learn, and you need to keep going forward. You can't keep reliving it. Use that 24-hour rule. You kind of, cry in your milk for a while, and then you got to go forward. And I think, our staff has done a great job of that, and our players did a nice job of that today in practice.
Mm-hmm. As we mentioned, you're coaching the defensive line, and we've heard so many good things about this defense this year, and they showed it on Saturday. I'm sure you as defensive coaches came away very pleased with how your young men defended, given short fields in a number of situations.
Well, one of the emphasis points we had going into the season was we needed to improve on that change of possession, the quick change of possession defense, and in that red zone. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that. And probably the most exciting aspect was when we looked at the tape, and I know Stan has talked about, that improvement from week 1 to week 2. We saw a lot of things that really can be improved, whether that's by technique, alignments, some of our checks. And with that, how we did play, and with that looking forward in terms of making those improvements, I think we have a lot of room to get even better at this point.
Mm-hmm. The linebackers, as we said, were very successful, but that has a lot to do with what the defensive line is doing, isn't it?
Well, there's 11 guys on the field, and everybody's got a responsibility, and the best defenses at any level of football are ones that all 11 guys are accepting their role, whatever that role may be, and they do that to the best of their abilities. And I thought our guys up front did a nice job. We got hurt a little bit because we lost the starter on a second play. Will Hudson went down and rolled an ankle, and we had to do some flipping around of people at times. And, that gave us some experience level. Some guys got a lot more reps than probably we were planning to have them get reps. But they did a nice job with that, and I think, we're pleased with where they're at and excited about where we can still get to.
Mm-hmm. Talk about those key individuals on the defensive line.
Well, I think it starts, Zach Murat is our one of our 4 captains this year, and Zach is one of these guys. He's probably undersized to really be playing, defensive line, and we're playing more inside this year than last year we played him outside. But he's such a great technician. He does everything that you ask in regards to how he gets lined up, where he strikes, how he reads plays. He's just a joy to watch that way. And he had a very nice game Saturday night. Eric Peterson on the outside, we actually flipped sides from where he was last year. Played a nice game. And Mac Mamons did a super job in the inside there as well. Mac played center last year. We flipped him over to defensive line in the spring. Has really accepted the position change and has worked very hard to become a good defensive lineman. And those 3 guys have really done a nice job. Ron Brown, who was a young man, who was a sophomore for us from Wisconsin, is a big, tall kid, had some really nice plays, plays very, very hard, plays fast. And he did a nice job in there. Cole Wentworth had a lot of snaps for us. He did a nice job, and he's a guy who was originally a tight end. He came here to be a tight end, and very, very early in camp we flipped him over to defensive end and has really stepped into that role. Then inside, Dan Pike and Franklin Blanche both had some reps inside there and did some nice things. So we're excited about our depth. You like to have them a little bit better, but they're working hard, and I know they are going to get better. And, exciting for me as a coach, I coach them is because there's not a single senior in the group. And
That is exciting.
so, we're going to have this group for a while.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears to special teams, how did you feel about the performance? There was the fumble on the kickoff return that was an error, but how did you feel other than that on special teams?
Well, the fumble was there, and Oscar, I know, learned a lot from that play. But on that play, it was exciting because I think we actually blocked it fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought a kickoff return, there's some great individual efforts by a number of people there. I thought we had a couple young kids that made a mistake on our very first kickoff. They almost broke a big one. But Tyler Dobrat stepped up and made a heck of a play. And then the second time we kick off, it was a lot better. And the kids responded. They took the coaching on the sideline, and that's so important on kickoff. And I thought we actually attacked downfield faster and harder than we did almost all of last year in this first game. So I was very pleased there. A little worried about our snap and on the punt. That's a little scary, especially going into Platteville week where Platteville puts a lot of pressure on the kick, on our punters and kickers. So we're going to need to get that shored up. I thought some of the other aspects of punt, though, was actually pretty good. And then our punt return is basically now we've taken a more of a philosophy of we're going to make sure they don't fake it, and we're going to make sure we catch it. And we did all that.
Yep.
And the only ones we didn't catch were ones that were kicked way out of bounds, and no one's going to catch those except some fan maybe. So that was very good. So and they really didn't get a chance to get Curtis out there and do anything from a field goal point, but I know he'll be ready when that opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, he was perfect on point afters and last year, and so his potential for continuing a great career is very good. Well, Mike, the clock on the wall says we got to get going. Anything else so you wanted to add about the Spartan football team this year before we let you go?
Well, I think we got some great ability out there, and there's some potential to make some plays, both sides of the ball and special teams, and now it's just a matter of competing on every play and making it happen. And when it does, I think we can, get ourselves rolling.
Coach Sternan, thanks a lot for coming by, and we'll look forward to seeing the Spartans this Saturday in that game against Wisconsin, Platteville. And thanks for joining us here tonight again on the UD Football Show.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it is a big week for the Spartans, trying to flip the table and get a win at a very tough 8th-ranked Wisconsin Platteville. We'll have it here on the river. 12:40 with a pregame, 1 o'clock kickoff. We thank you for listening to the UD Football Show this evening or viewing it online on the University of Dubuque's website. And you can always see the podcast of this later. I know they have that available on the website and also on UD's YouTube page. So watch the replay there to get Stan's insight into Coach Dernan's in case you missed any of the program. So thank you for listening and have a great rest of the week. I'm Tim Larry on 101.1 The River.